Welcome to the Endless Entrepreneurs YouTube channel. My name is Luke Henson. I am an eBay seller, a real estate investor, and I work as a contract consultant in the finance world. I use this channel to track my eBay business, my real estate business, and just to share general thoughts about each of those, document my journey in hopes to help anyone who's watching the channel or is on similar paths, and just to share whatever knowledge I may have and to learn from you guys who watch this channel frequently. I gain a lot of knowledge from you as well. So per the topic of the video, we're going to talk about how much capital and how much profit from your business, specifically eBay, we're going to talk eBay today, should you be reinvesting back into your business? This has been a question actually over the last, I would say 3 or 4 weeks. I've been starting to get asked more and more. It's popped up frequently over the years, but this, for some reason, the last several weeks, it has been a really, really strong comment or question. I've had a couple people ask me to do videos about it, so here it is. I'm sorry for the delay on it. I'm going to give my honest thoughts. I by no means am the be-all, end-all or expert on this. I can just speak from my personal experience, what's worked for me, and how I view it. So hopefully this will answer some of those questions. Hi, everyone in the chat. This is a live broadcast, so if you are watching right now, please feel free to comment in the chat. And I'll be sure to do Q&A at the end. Hopefully this will be fairly interactive. A rough outline I'd like to follow, but outside of that, hopefully this will be pretty interactive. If you're watching this later, definitely drop your comments and your thoughts. I'd love to hear them. I think it's a really important topic. I hate to have no problem for signing the jeans. That's a different story for a different day, but pretty cool deal. You should check out actually my vlog from Sunday. It kind of talks about it, or just jump over to Prop Sales channel. He mentions what it's about. I don't want to spoil it for anyone else, but it was truly my pleasure and no problem. But anyway, so I just want to jump in here and just kick it right off with talking about kind of the scenarios and how I view this. So I want to make it one assumption as we start this discussion, and I want to make the assumption that you're just starting off with your eBay business, right? So we're going to start there, and then we'll transition to maybe you've been, it's more of a mature business or a super mature business. But let's start with just the beginning, because I think that's where the question comes from the most is, hey, I just started my eBay business. I made X amount of dollars. How much should I really be reinvesting to make sure it keeps growing while still being able to enjoy kind of my hard work and the time put in? And I view this in a couple different ways. And the first real main way is I try to assess what is your personal finance situation, right? So let's take the scenario that you're working full time and you're just starting your eBay business. We'll start with that one. You're working full time and you're putting 20, 30 hours in. You're just starting to get off the ground. You're going to thrift stores. You're buying stuff. You're flipping it. And let's say that you have a tight personal budget. So let's say that your day job just covers all your expenses, and your eBay business is kind of that temptation a little bit there to help make ends meet a little better, maybe to pad things, make things a little more comfortable. So let's talk that situation. In my opinion, if you're looking to grow your business, I still think that you should find and fight to reinvest 100% of your profit back into your business. And I say this for one simple reason is the more capital you can reinvest in a new inventory and boost up your inventory, the bigger and the quicker your sales are going to grow. I mean, one of the biggest constraints of someone getting consistent sales daily is not having a large enough inventory in the niche that you're in. And the only way to get that inventory when you're starting from the bottom is to simply buy more solid, good inventory. Now, I'm not saying that you should reinvest all of it and buy absolutely anything you find. You still need to be smart with your buying choices and make good decisions. But I would urge you that even if you have that tight budget situation, find ways to cut costs in your personal life so you can keep reinvesting the profit, and almost think of it as just like you're playing with house money over here. You can't touch it and it just needs to stay there and grow. Almost like an untouchable investment kind of mindset. That's what I did for the first 1.5 years of my business. I did not take a dollar out. I reinvested everything. And, now I'll take out some here and there, like I went to Vegas this last month. I took out like $1,000 with me to go. Occasionally there'll be some things where I'll do that. But for the most part, even now, I would consider I have a fairly mature eBay business, still lots of room to grow. I reinvest about 85% of the profit back into my business. So just for some perspective, when I say that, I'm coming from a position where I'm at least practicing what I preach a little bit. Now, and someone just said, Lakeway Treasure Hunter said I quit my job too soon with a little unhappy face there. And, that's another thing. Like I've been doing this part-time, right? Like my eBay business part-time. I spent almost full-time hours on it for about 3.5, 4 years while working full-time. I've just never gotten to the point where I'm comfortable enough to walk away or feel like it replaces it. And because of that, that's why I continue to snowball into it, because I want to keep growing and getting bigger. So if I ever wanted to make that choice, I feel like it would be big enough. But anyway, this is kind of a little sidebar there. But getting back to that scenario of, tight budget, just starting off, the incremental growth that you'll experience from reinvesting those dollars early is so dramatic and big versus if you take it out. Like when you're in your first 10 to 50 listings, right, and you get through your first month and a half, if you take half the profit from those listings and don't reinvest it in new capital, you're probably just going to maintain your level of inventory. Like if you're not reinvesting it, you might not even get enough momentum to get up over and get more inventory than you have. So it's really, really critical in those early times to do that. Now, I'm going to say this is kind of going down this path again. Let's say just starting off, but your financial situation isn't tight and that you just started this as a hobby income, whatever. Maybe you want it. And again, it comes back to your goals here too. So maybe you just started because you want an extra $500 a month to use for golf, right? Or I'll just say something around it. Then maybe that's your goal and you just want to maintain a certain inventory. You're not looking to blow this out as a massive business. And that's perfect for you. Your finances are taken care of over here. You're going to take out 50, 60% of your eBay money. Maybe you'll reinvest a little bit just to maintain your inventory. And you're going to take that money out every month and it's going to, take care of recreation. That's perfectly fine too, right? But it's got to align with what you're trying to do. And probably 90% of the people that ask me questions, they either want to quit their jobs and go full time, or they just want to create a significant income from their eBay. They want to get big. And, the number one thing you can do to grow that is to reinvest right into it. So that's kind of scenario one that I like to think about is like from the ground up, you're just starting off, those two situations. And I started to touch on it towards the end here. So the second thing I really talk about is what are your goals, right? What is your objective for your eBay business? What do you have a business plan? And, one of the things that I really, really emphasize is having a business plan. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, right? But talking about what is your average cost of goods targeted, right? What are you trying to make from a margin perspective? What type of money do you expect from the business? That way you can make decisions and educate decisions on, all right, I think I'm going to have this much money from what I'm projecting, conservatively. This is how I want to reinvest it. Looks like I'll have this much left. And then this is how much I may owe in taxes. And so this gets me to kind of the next stage here, right? You align your goals to how much you want to invest back in your business, right? What you're trying to get out of it. And then there becomes the whole tax situation. And I don't think we talk about this a lot in the reseller world. I think there's been more and more discussion around it. It's become less of a thing like hush hush no one talks about. And I've seen some really good experts in the field now here in the reseller community giving really good advice. But one of the things to really think about when you are making the decision to pull money out versus reinvest is if you're reinvesting 100% back into your business, you're almost deferring your tax liability to a later time when it makes more sense. And when I say reinvest, it's not always in capital, right? Like I try to find a good balance when I'm reinvesting in capital, in equipment for my business that's going to make me more efficient, in softwares, in conferences, in networking, and wholesale orders, and whatever can grow your business or push it in the right direction. You need to look at that amount of profit. That's where it comes down to a business plan, right? Is understanding what you're going to have to play with and what you're going to have to pay to the IRS at the end of the year. And I think that's really smart, especially if you're working with a CPA or tax planner. You should be reinvesting the right amount of profit to pay the least amount of taxes and continue to grow your business. If you don't have personal financial restraints on one side, right, where you need to pull money out. But I think that's something that I've really focused on the last, I would say 2 years, definitely. I could even argue the last 3, but definitely the last 2, I've had a huge, huge focus on planning to a T and projecting with my CPA, right? What are the things I want to reinvest my money into so that I'm reducing my tax liability as low as possible and gain as much value in the future, right? And sorry for the paint all over my hands. I've been just painting earlier tonight in our bedroom there. But looking at the different pieces of equipment that I need to replace, or maybe I'm planning to scale. I mean, I'll tell you what, when I knew I was going to start to have other people like contract and do things for me, I started buying different equipment setups and different things that I thought I would need based on that, right? I started building out new shelving and storage. As you start to grow your inventory, some things people don't think about is how are you going to store it? How are you going to be efficient, right? You might be able to do a really cheap inventory setup and storage, but it might be highly inefficient to sort through and grab your items to ship and make, and you might be wasting tons of time. Whereas if you just invested that $1,000 into a much more efficient setup, something smooth and easy, no hitches, no issues, you reinvested that money that you lower your tax liability with. You're not paying to the IRS, right? And you now save maybe, let's just say you save 2 hours a week. Let's say you save 30 minutes a day, right? On a new setup. That's so much more time to reinvest in your business. It just pays so many dividends down the road, just snowballs, right? The benefit of doing that. So I just think that's so huge, and we don't talk about that a lot when it comes to reinvesting profit back into eBay business. Is make sure that all the pieces fit, right? From a tax perspective, from a goals perspective, from your personal finances, like they all got to fit together and they got to work together to optimize for yourself. So that, those are really my big highlights there. And then the last one is talking about other opportunities to invest. And this is kind of the stage of life I'm starting to get to now. Sorry, I keep hitting the table there. This is the kind of stage my business is getting to, and the opportunities now is, I have my first rental property now that that's been rented out for a few months, and getting my feet on the ground with that, getting some traction. We have our house here we're living in that we're starting to renovate. We're now looking at some short-term rental opportunities as beach condos that are nearby, that are driving distance for us, that will be kind of a dual recreational property, but also an income property. And so you start getting into that situation where, I've been reinvesting all that money, right, back in my eBay business to lower my tax liability, to maximize and keep growing. But now I'm having the opportunity where my ROI might be a lot higher on that extra $1,500 I'm going to reinvest, using it or saving it towards a down payment 4 months from now for one of these short-term rental properties, right? And so now I have to start thinking about, and I think this comes back to when you have a more mature business, is how much to reinvest, is what other ventures are you trying to get into, or what is the return you can get with your money somewhere else in the market with, real estate, wherever, right? How else can you leverage that? And so that's kind of the conversation I'm having now is like, all right, I'm going to reinvest X amount of dollars because I know I can still grow my business, right? I'm not going to slow down the growth, and I can take the remainder over here and I can reinvest it in this other area. So that's kind of the decision making I'm starting to get to. And I think that's another, I challenge you to think about and align your goals to. So that's a lot I just threw at everyone. I'd love to take some questions on this. I know this has been a really hot topic. I'll answer any questions anyone has. I'm a pretty open book. I am not an expert. I just know what's worked for me. I'm at a point, like I said, where I'm reinvesting well over 85% back in my business. What I'm starting to do is I'm probably going to shift to about a 60-40 model, where 40% is going to real estate, 60% is going into the eBay business. I've done some pretty good rough numbers, and I know that I can keep growing at almost the same pace, even removing that money, as my average sell price goes up, as I'm leveraging more help and things like that. So that's where I'm at, guys. So Passenger said, I'm about 2 months in, started with 200 and reinvested every dollar, sold some early listings cheaper than I probably should have in order to generate cash flow, strictly a hobby for me. Yeah, and that's exactly how I started off for like a year, like I said, like a year and a half. And it's interesting, right? Like, I think that's a great strategy, especially early on, is to sell like mid-market, not max market, just to get capital and keep kind of snowballing back into more inventory. And then as it starts to mature, you kind of flip that on its head. And you start to go for a much higher average sell price. I actually don't see a ton of questions coming in, which is totally fine. I know this is a weird time of night for me to even do a video, but I was looking at the rest of my week, and I'm literally renovating, laying down the floor in the room for like the next 3 days. So I knew I wasn't going to get a chance to do a longer form video. I've been doing the daily vlogs, been getting good feedback on those. I guess you guys like those, so I'm going to keep those coming. I'm enjoying doing those, learn a lot about editing. A little shout out to Charles Hurley. He's the one who put together my intro for me that I just dropped today, and that intro, it was fantastic. I couldn't believe it. I pretty much let him just have free reign on what he wanted to do, and he got that back to me in a couple of days, and it was fantastic. So shout out to him. Really appreciate that. Yeah, and if you guys don't mind, hit that like button for me. It really helps YouTube know that this is valuable content, and it lets me know that you guys are enjoying it. I'm glad you guys are enjoying the vlogs. Thank you very much. Deb said we looked at our first warehouse office space today. Our business is growing so big. That's awesome. Well, when you get your warehouse, I'm gonna have to come down and visit. If you don't mind having a guest down there, I'd love to come see it, because that's one step I haven't taken yet, and hopefully in the near future that will be a step for me, especially to start to get some of these listers off the ground and keep really going. So let's just ask how my listers are working out. So that's perfect bridge there. Really good so far. I think it's helped a lot that they're resellers already, that they have their own eBay businesses. So it's easier to talk, easier to, train and just kind of tweak things. It's in a really nice mutually beneficial relationship for both of them. They're both starting to scale up even more. They're getting faster and they want more inventory, so it's good. So now it's funny, you want to get bigger, you need to ask for bigger problems. So now my problem is now I just got to keep sourcing and finding ways of bringing large amounts of inventory, which is good. I'm going to try to take on one more lister. I still anyone who's interested, I am looking for one more here in the Charlotte area. And I'm piloting InkFrog right now this week. So I'm listing through InkFrog. I set up some profiles and I'm trying to just break it and figure it out. And then I think I'm going to transition to almost a full listing. So basically I'll pay them more per unit to do the full listing. That way, basically all I'm doing is they're loading them into InkFrog. I'm checking the prices, setting the prices, and then setting it live. Let's see. So Edward said, I've been watching since January 17th, 2017, got a ton of info from you. Keep up the great work. Thank you. I appreciate that, Edward. Thank you. That means a lot. I'm glad anytime I hear that any of my content was valuable in any way, I'm always very humbled and appreciative. Aaron just said, what hurdles hinder your financial business planning? That's a great question. Well, this last year, we got married and we bought this house. So we weren't planning to buy this house, and that really, I don't know if hinder is the right word, because it was a great opportunity and that's why we did it. But we definitely had to shift capital in a different way that I was intending. I really thought it was going to be towards an investment property, and then it went towards a home property, which is totally fine. But that definitely had shifted a lot. The other thing that I would say, the other hurdles that hinder for sure is as I'm starting to buy more expensive inventory, I'm a little more sensitive to trying to turn it faster. So like I'm buying these things from Blue Lots, and I'm starting to be really, really critical about my buying decisions to make sure that they're moving fast, which so far so good, but I'm a little more sensitive to that before, because, I bought the Ella Bean order. It was like $3,600 for 3,000 units. Like that's way different than buying, 30 or 40 at $9 to $15 a unit or $19 a unit. So I don't know if it hinders the right word, and hopefully I'm answering your question, but those are really the things that I would say. Also is just like life planning, right? Like, and going in the direction with new investments from a business plan. So like if we lay out this money to get a short-term rental, and that's going to be a lot of capital that we're putting out there. There's going to be a lot of things I don't foresee that are going to end up being expenses. And so it's just trying to properly prepare myself for all the mistakes I'm going to make. And that's just something that's really hard to calculate and judge. That's great, Deb. Well, I look forward to visiting when you have that. Melissa said you had them do drafts in a spreadsheet. Now you're switching to InkFrog. So basically, Melissa, what I've done is at first, because I was just trying to figure it out, really just doing whatever seemed to work. So I put the core fields that I need a piece of information, which is basically I need a brand, size, the style, like whatever the basic style of the item was, the material components, the basic color description, and then the measurements that I wanted. And then I had them put in folders the photos that corresponded to that listing with the inventory number, with that information in a spreadsheet. And then I pulled that off and I built the listings myself in eBay. That way no one else was in my eBay account. Like, it was the best way I could think of at the time. Now it looks like with InkFrog, if I can get this to work, they can actually load the photos to Dropbox. And instead of taking the time to fill out the spreadsheet and all of that, they can just load the photos straight from Dropbox from their phone on InkFrog, right? So because Dropbox being their computer, so they could just jump on, load the photos into their profile on InkFrog. Instead of typing all things in a spreadsheet, they can just type those into a listing, so they're already there. And then I'll probably have them add a couple more things, like the title, draft title, and maybe pay them an extra $1 an item for just having it all right there. And then that saves me even more time, where literally all I'm going in is just proofing the title, maybe editing a little bit to make it a more SEO friendly title, and then changing the price to what I want. So I have the price control, and then set it live. So it's just I think it's an time arbitrage where I'm buying more time back into my business. Thanks, Dustin. I'm glad you're enjoying the vlogs. I'm just like full disclosure. I have no idea what I'm doing vlogging. Like Shannon and I are just trying to have some fun with it. Like I'm just trying to figure out a good way to storytell. I'm getting better. I think they're starting to get better. But I even video editing, I'm just learning as I go. But I'm having a blast with it. So I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. Melissa said, so InkFrog is working so much better. Awesome, that is the software I was thinking. Yeah, and again, Melissa, I haven't rolled it out to them yet, so I don't know all the kinks and stuff that are there. Like, don't take this as a full endorsement of InkFrog. I'll know, I would say in like another month, I'll know how well it's working. I know there are some duplication issues with listings, but with anything, there's always going to be issues, so we're just going to have to work with it. So Muse just said, I would like to use my eBay business to invest in other avenues like real estate, the stock market, et cetera. Still working on how to scale my business. The market is so saturated. Yeah, I mean, and I think those are all really valid opportunities to reinvest your profit into. And it really just comes down to what are your goals that you want to accomplish. And as far as the saturated market, I mean, you got to find a niche that works for you and with things that you can source in your area. Ronnie, what's up? Ronnie's in the house. Hearts Pickers. If you haven't checked out his channel, you really should. How are you doing up there in the Northeast, Ronnie? Is the snow all melted and thawed out, or are you guys still freezing up there from that last nor'easter? So on the roads again, just asking a question: how hard was it to scale from say 500 listings to 1,000? And now I'll reference like I deal primarily in clothing. So if you're a new viewer, didn't know that, I'm primarily clothing. So from going from 500 to 1,000 wasn't that hard. Going from like 100 to 500 was really hard for me because I was so inefficient in the beginning at my listings. By the time I hit like 500, I had a pretty decent system down. So it was just a matter of putting in the hours. And so for 500 to 1,000 wasn't too bad. I'm sitting at just under 1,500 right now. I expect that number to scale a little quicker now that I have listers for sure. I have individual pieces of inventory. I have over 3,000, but I have a lot of multi-quantity items. So I have like I think it's like 1,460 unique eBay listings. Melissa said, your investment property is a 1 unit, so 1 tenant. We have a 3 unit and have issues with tenants. Rentals can be a pain. Yeah, Melissa. So I really ease into the rental game in like probably the most ideal situation. It's a 3-bedroom townhouse with a 1-bedroom garage, and it's in the best school district here in Charlotte, pretty much, well, arguably like top 2. So it's very, very desirable. So one, that's a huge way to ease in. The second is that I actually have 2 friends who are roommates renting from me. So I have people I know closely, and I know a lot of people are like, oh, you shouldn't rent to people you know, but this so far so good. We're able to separate it pretty well. And it's just been easier for me because I haven't had to deal with property management, with advertising. We did a lease and we did all the legit things, but that's just been an easier way for me to get into it. I know when you're just going tenants, you don't know, it's definitely harder. I am fortunate. I have 2 friends here in Charlotte who also have real estate that they rent. So I get to bounce a lot of ideas off them and how they've dealt with tenants and built that kind of thing. So that's been really nice. Ronnie said it's starting to warm up into the 50s, hoping to start to see an increase in estate sales and yard sales. Yeah, Ron, you got to get pumped. You always crush the estate sales and yard sales. So got to be nice to come out of hibernation a little bit this winter. Lake Ray Treasure Hunter said, I'm trying to get out of my own sweatshop, hopefully slowly buy better quality, currently all bins. Yeah, that's the problem in the beginning when you have to take money out of your business to pay your bills. It can be stifling to grow. So you just had to put those extra hours and there's no way really around it. So passengers asked, do you mind telling us what a quality photographer lister makes per listing? Does it make it worthwhile to move down market a bit? Yeah, I don't mind sharing because if anyone inquired, I would tell them, right? My going rate that I'm comfortable with for a margin perspective is right now for my current workflow. So loading photos of Dropbox and typing the couple required fields I have in a spreadsheet on Dropbox is $1.50 per listing. Now that's not for suits and blazers, because I don't think that's a fair wage for suits and blazers because they take a little longer. That's, for pants and tops, basically. Women's blazers are different. Like, I think those are fine at $1.50. They're quicker, but like pretty much not suits, I guess. I think those just take too long. But yeah, $1.50. If I was gonna do the full list in Ink Frog, I'm thinking probably $2.50 a listing, which I think is more than fair. Because I think from a margin perspective, like my average sell price right now is about $28. It keeps rising. It should be around like 35 by the end of this year. I mean, $2.50 out of $35 average sell price. And if I maintain a 50% margin, like net margin, like I'm totally fine with that. I think it's really important that you pay a little more than you think it's worth. Because I think that you need to appreciate the fact that other people are willing to do that work for you. So that's just kind of the mentality I've always taken, is like always give a little more than you think is equal, right? Like, because that's just best practice. So Just Pac-Man said, I would love to get out of this condo and have a garage warehouse, but I got this place to eventually rent it out. Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, stick to your plan. If you got that place to eventually rent out, that's a great plan. You can work with the space you have. Don't be in a rush. Make sure you get to the right size before you do that. And someone said, as landlords, we pick our problems as tenants. Yeah, I mean, we definitely are responsible for a lot of them. There's no doubt about that. And Deb said that her sister-in-law owns over 20 rentals. She does very well, but it's a lot of work for her. Yeah, it definitely can be a lot of work. Pretty much once I get past like 3 or 4 here locally, I'll definitely be switching to property management. I've just a lot of the advice I've gotten, and it makes sense to me economically, is unless you have a portfolio of rental properties, you have very little leverage when you start to negotiate the property managers, and you get put at the bottom of the totem pole as far as priority and taking care of them. So I'm just going to learn the ropes on my own, because I think it's important that I know how to do it myself. And then as I have 3 or 4 properties, then I'm going to transition to that more property management role. No problem, Melissa. Happy to help. Like I said, would you recommend cashing out stocks to invest in inventory? Wouldn't mind dropping a few K on a sweet pallet deal like you got. Your return was amazing. I wouldn't recommend that, honestly. The penalty you're gonna take from doing that, most likely, I'm guessing it's in an investment account, like a retirement account. The hit you're gonna take on it is gonna kill all your ROI in the long run. I wouldn't take that short-term approach. All right. I will take another question or two, and then I'm going to wrap up. I appreciate everyone hanging out and giving your input. This has been great for me. I thought this was a great conversation to have. Like I said, it's been being asked quite a bit, and I thought it was a good time to address it. Let's just ask, I'm going to eBay Open. Unfortunately, I'm not. This year just filled up so fast. We're going to 6 weddings. My sister graduates from college, so we'll be traveling for that. We're going to San Diego. Like it's just crazy year in travel. It's just the year of weddings, and so I just had to be really cut back on any extra trips. I didn't get to go to the Green Room meetup this year, unfortunately. I really enjoyed that last year. I also just went to Vegas, so like unfortunately not. Hopefully next year would be great. I mean, if there was like a unique opportunity or something at eBay Open for me, I definitely would go. I would carve out time and find a way. But if it was just kind of attending and being there, it would be really, really hard to swing. But for, like I said, if an opportunity arose, then maybe I would do that. All right, guys, I am going to wrap up. I need to edit the vlog for today, and I need to do a couple more listings. I've gotten a lot of listings, and I want to keep the momentum going. I'm close to maybe getting my best month ever here in March, so I just really want to keep pushing these last couple days. Hope you guys' sales are going well. Hopefully this was helpful. Please drop in the comments your thoughts on this topic. I think it's really important as a community that we discuss this, and especially for people just starting out, I think it's good that you have the right perspective on how to reinvest your profit back in your business. So thanks, guys. Have an awesome night.